So, Ken, can you go ahead and give us a quick intro as to who you are, what you're up to, and how you got into cold email?
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for having me, man. Always good to catch up on this stuff. But yeah, I'm Ken Volk. I run AutoUp and instantly partner, expert, etc. And man, I got into cold email almost by accident. This is a long time ago, right? So I was a blue collar business owner way back when in Montana, right, where I'm originally from. But had a convenience store. I sold that, and then I took some time off. Didn't have to work for a minute, which was nice. And I became biz dev director for this company called SourcePad, which is, company that made websites and mobile apps, mostly for startups, some SMBs. But we had this really brilliant founder named Joe Chin, who guy went to Columbia. He was a rocket scientist, but more than that, he was a real doer, an entrepreneur that he's raised 30 million, sold three companies, and he said, "Hey, the way that we're going to scale SourcePad is through cold email." Now my background, I'm from Montana. I'm used to like slinging beer in my my shop and doing all kinds of things with tobacco. This was not that, and I was not bullish on cold email. I just thought, okay, what are we doing here? This is spam. It's not going to work. And he's like, no, it's going to work, and you got to figure it out. It's like no pressure, but really long story short, I was there for 2 years, and yeah, figured it out. We did so well. That company got acquired too, and the thinking was like, wow, if we can do that well there, where everybody wants to make you a website or a mobile app, it can work anywhere, provided, it's B2B, you can go wide enough, send enough emails. So, I formed AutoUp essentially right away. I think this was it was early 2022. It was one of the very first power users of Instantly. I remember booking a call, with Instantly, and as it turned out was with Nils, their CEO, and, got to know him a little bit and thought, wow, what they're doing is exactly what we need. So smart. Loved it, and we've been kind of ever flying ever since.
That's super interesting. One thing we're going to talk a lot about in this call is the stuff that you're up to with cold email. But one thing I can attest, I met you right after that. I think like 6, 8 months when you were into AutoUp. And since the first call, we were one of the first guys in cold email that questioned everything. You're like, I don't know if these things all hold up. Like a bunch of the stuff that's said in cold email, and you tested a bunch. And I remember back in the day, we were like, hey, we're testing images. Everyone says images don't work. And we're like, well, we're sending images. We are landing. It's looking gorgeous, right? Um,
Right. I
yeah,
remember that.
and I
Yeah, yeah. It's
and I think from like your background, coming from like a completely different industry into cold email, that's what made you disruptive in the space because you question everything. You're like, I don't know if this is the way to run, and you started implementing your own thing, and it worked. It worked really well. Um, which is super interesting. Now, one question, real quick for the audience: what kind of customers do you work with? I know you have some huge names in the roster, so yeah,
Yeah, man. I mean, as long as it's B2B companies, right? I mean, we're pretty industry agnostic. Some people niche down, that's fine. But we're all over the map. I mean, there's definitely a lot of SaaS, M&A, private equity. We love playing in those spaces, but you name it, prop tech, fintech, logistics, solar, again, recruiting, anything. We'll do it all. And we've been lucky, to have clients on every continent, I guess, 6 to 7, but yeah, so we'll touch them all. Doesn't matter who or what from an industry perspective, but as long as they have a good offer and we can really go wide with them, chances are they can be a fit.
I like that. Very interesting. I'll give one more piece of context for the audience too, which is you mentioned you met Niels very back in the day, and this was when like Instant just got started, and you've been with them like since for a while, right? And you're the top one Codimo software in the space by far, by a huge margin at the moment. And they chose you to represent them. Something I saw on socials, and that's been super interesting. You're an instantly certified partner, of course, but not only that, you run their Outbound. So I was super curious to hear. Um, like how is that going? Like how come you became the top agency in the space?
Well, I don't know that we're the top, but I'd say we're up there, right?
Yeah.
But no, they asked, I don't know, almost a year ago, and like, hey, would you have any interest in doing this? Like, of course, no question. And so it's just been a matter of like, just a lot of testing, a lot of iterating. They have an incredible product, great offer. Everyone knows them. But the other thing there is those guys are so smart, so data driven. And so it was really humbling and very cool to see that, okay, they knew that we could probably deliver results. And we've been able to do it. But it's fun. There's just so many different angles, personas. So some clients, some campaigns are just, they're easy because you can go so wide. You don't have to iterate, change a whole lot with copy, which is nice. But there is a challenge to running, outbound for instantly, but it's a fun one. It's one we take on and it's enjoy doing, which is always helpful when you've got that and doing it for those guys too, which is just, yeah, it's very satisfying.
Oh, I bet. And I've seen some of the results. You posted them on LinkedIn. It was incredible. Um, and moving a little bit away from instantly, but still on instantly, you posted some recent results that were mind blowing. How about you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about the kind of results you generate nowadays? And I'm talking specifically about the 10K plus positive replies you're getting per month, leads you're generating per month for clients.
Yeah, so we're over 10K a month, positive replies, everybody. It's wild. I think I don't know if you know Mo Shalby, but he's probably got us beat. He's probably got everybody beat, and that's okay. He's a stud. He's great. But I think we're up there. I think we're definitely up there in terms of positive replies. I should probably be more noisy about it, right? Because it just yep, there's so many, and very few can do it. So, yeah, man, it's fun, and part of that, the game though. It's you have to have the ability to run great offers, and you probably have to be good enough to be able to get the clients that have the great offers. So being able to do that, but yeah, you can't do this without having clients that have just killer offers, good processes, good teams behind them. Um, it's one of those things, right? Offers king. All these podcasts, everyone who talks about it, we all know that's the deal. I definitely can't pretend that like it's not the deal because it is. But yeah, we're getting over 10,000 a month now across all clients, and I don't know. I think February's a shorter month, but it's might be closer to 15 this month. We'll see where it shakes, but they keep going up somehow. But we'll take it.
That's fun. And you mentioned offers a few times. How do you think about offers? How do you think about like cold email ready offers, which is different from like advertising, different from landing page copy? How do you think about it like in cold email? What kind of offers do you see working well, and how do you think about communicating them in the emails?
Yeah, I mean anything that can provide value, make someone money, save the money, and or make their lives easier. Those are kind of the three big things we look for. But I do you hinted at this earlier, but I tend to take sort of a different position in terms of the packaging of the stuff and how they're dressed up, because I think what we see is a structure. There's a structure that exists within sort of the Outbound community where it's almost like everyone's read Hermosi, and if I could guarantee you X leads over Y, Y time frame, would that be of interest? And you can just see that structure and everyone's doing the same damn thing. So I want to get away from that, right? In a little more, not in a big wordy way, but I mean, just right from a higher plane, I guess. Treating the audience as being maybe more sophisticated, a different voice altogether. So just trying to change the presentation of these offers so it doesn't look so much like a cold email as they are templated now, and everyone seems to follow. Most people do anyway, the same sort of structure. Yeah, I try to get away from that when we can, but I think that helps. Um, if
That's
that answers
huge.
your
And
question.
yeah, it totally does. And I've seen some brilliant copy of yours. And I've been in Codema for a while. So for those who haven't seen any other videos in my channels, I've been in this space for like 8 years as well. And I've seen all sorts of copy. I've seen all sorts of structures. And the brilliance in your copy is on, I don't like the word simple, but it's just like simple. You speak their language in a very good way, and it's straight to the point. It's nothing that's over promising, which is what we see a lot in the space nowadays. Everyone running lead magnets and saying, "I'll get you this for free. Get started, like free trials." But I've never seen you do any of that stuff. It's always casual. It hits a pain point. It communicates the offer very clearly, and it has a soft CTA. Let's move forward. At least the ones that I've seen. So
Yeah.
how do you usually think about that? Like, how come you decided to go down that route of being like so casual and yeah, and just focusing on those specific things that you usually do on copy?
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Well, I think the biggest thing is like to send it to myself and just see them. How does it present in the inbox? Right? How is 100, how are 100,000 people going to take this or whatever the number is, right? Let's really tear it apart and just nail it, right? You make a few tweaks here in the CTA, the PS space, whatever. But I think just looking at how it reads, how does it come off? I pull other people and we user test, right? I don't know how many people do that, or I don't hear a lot talking about it. That's really important because okay, I write well, fine, but um, you're always, if you're going to involve good sort of de facto editors, they're always going to make stuff better. So if you write something, maybe you sleep on it, whatever, and then you ship it, you're gonna get something a little bit better, a little bit tighter. But yeah, I don't know. Just trying to just to setting it to myself, looking at seeing how it renders the whole thing, not just from one email, but the whole sequence, all that stuff. So, um, yeah, just trying to write well, right? Like, because we've been able to book with more than half the Fortune 500 at this point. I think if you can get NVIDIA, which we've got, like, it just gets easier downstream. That's true. So, but
Right.
even then, you just have to really think about it and be critical.
And from what I've seen, be very human. Like your emails are not like flashy. They have none of this woo-woo stuff that you actually see in the space nowadays. Most people are generating emails with AI. That's something you see all across the board, and those
Yeah.
are doing what they're doing. I don't ever see many great results, but what you do is the absolute opposite. It's not flashy. It's very. It feels like personable. It feels like it's one person to another. It's just like, hey, like I'm doing this thing. How about what you have going on? And I think that plays a huge factor in the game. And then the other thing that you do from there is you run a lot of volume, which is super interesting. You run some insane amounts of volume, which is something I definitely want
Yeah.
to touch on this call. How do you think about infra? How do you think about like structuring the engine to send all of those emails out?
Yeah, I mean, conservatively, right? I mean, just sending very, very few emails. I tell everybody the story. You've heard it, I think, privately. So, but I'll tell your audience that just because there's so much truth to it, I think. I look at my uncle Donnie Volk. He's in Great Falls, Montana. It's a town of 60,000 people, and he's got this little empire on the hill, right? This little space overlooking the city where he's got like 1,000 mini storage units, right? And he leases out industrial freezer spaces. And so, all told, there is some component of a B2B play, right? And so that guy, he's really smart. He's not tech savvy at all. He types like this, right? Just pecks at the keyboard, but he'll zip off a few cold emails, every day, every so often. And I mean, I just tell people, like, do you think a guy like that's worrying about, DNS authentication or landing in spam? I don't know. Why though? I mean, my overarching thesis is because he doesn't send that many emails. And so if you can keep your volume really, really light, all right, and really distribute it, I know that the most of the experts around are saying send 25, 20, 30 cold emails a day per inbox. I think that's old hat. I think you got to cut it way down. So we send a lot less. We distribute. We go very wide, and we have stuff on warm up deliberately that will rotate in and out. We'll automate, and you've helped us with this. You've been a huge help for this. Being able to automate things that, sending accounts and domains that aren't as healthy. We can get those on a warm up right away once they've hit certain thresholds. Once they've been there for a minute, they can come back in the game, so to speak. But because yeah, that's the other thing is you have that many thousands and thousands of sending accounts. You're beyond the point of having VAs or any sort of manual touch realistically to do it right. So you got to lean into automation. Got to use the API, and you gotta sort it through tech.
That's huge. And I'll put a note out for those who already been following my content too. I've been a huge believer of vanilla accounts. Vanilla accounts being you go directly to Google, pay $7 per account. You go to Microsoft, $7 per account, set them up manually, a whole shebang, a myriad of processes that you have to put in place to set up one email account. It takes like an hour to set up 6 of them. And that would be impossible to do at the scale that you play at. And then I've seen your systems and I've been since thinking a lot different about how I look at the infrastructure, cold email infrastructure. To play at those levels, you can't. As you said, you can't have VAs. You can't have manual process in place. It has to be through the API. And the part that is the most interesting is that you get the same, if not better, results from your info than I get from mine. And it's been interesting. So yeah, I wanted to give it a shout out on that because a lot of people that know me know I only talk about vanilla. And so yeah,
Right.
my hat off to you. That
Well,
was very well played, and I've seen the results, and it's fantastic. It's incredible.
they're working, man. That's right.
They're working, and I think there is a third ingredient to this pizza, which is we talked about it having a great offer. We talked about having great infra and not sending a lot of volume, but I also think you hit a lot of relevancy with your lead list. I've seen
Yeah.
some of the engines that you have going for lead generation, and they're very well targeted. They are very well segmented and filtered. Do you want to speak a little bit on how you think about lists and yeah, tell us a bit more like
Yeah.
how you approach it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, like, depends on who we're targeting, why, et cetera. But I mean,
Right.
certain triggers are great. Like if someone just got hired, just changed jobs, that's often a great prompt to reach out. And I think it's also a good way to get in Outlook boxes. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But by the way, just a
Yeah.
quick side tangent on that. We've had great results even getting positive replies from ESP, Outlook ESPs for those types of campaigns, really great results. Do I think though that we're actually getting into those Outlook boxes? Probably not, truthfully, right? I think that these are people who are new in their jobs, so they're checking junk and spam, and then they're that's just what I think. Again, I'm sure we'll talk about Outlook more, but no, I think relevance is key. If they just got, a new role, if they're hiring for the same pain point, like, I don't know, if there's certain things within their background that make sense. But I mean, you can do a lot of this like from an ABM perspective too. If the company hits certain criteria, that's the right sort of ICP for the client. Okay, cool. Then we can go back and find all the relevant personas that could be. So if it would be for us, for example, you're looking at sales, biz dev, growth, revenue, GTM, down the line, conceivably anyone who wears any of those hats, um, would be who you want to hit. And so hit them all. Go
That
wide.
makes total sense. And one note as well for those listening again is what you do then, from what I've seen, is you not only just make this huge list from like all of these personas that could work, but you also segment the copy to a lot of these personas when it makes sense. So you speak their language. And I think that's a huge component that's missed nowadays. I see so many Podimo companies helping their clients that they set up a list with like 10 different position titles at 10 different ranges of employee counts that these companies have, and they hit them all with the same copy. And then they wonder why only one specific ICP of those actually answers. And you do the
Right.
opposite, which is interesting. Or when it
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
When it makes sense, because sometimes you can get too granular too, right? I mean, you
Sure.
can just lump everybody who's biz dev and write the word biz dev, right? Whatever, we help biz dev leaders, and okay, now it's relevant to everybody, and it's really light. It's easy from an engineering perspective. And yeah, so I mean, that's your thing, right? Sometimes people just over optimize. Wow, here's this 47-step workflow, and did it move the needle though? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
What it does most of the time, and I can say this from experience, is just narrow down the lead list so much that it doesn't have enough volume to
Yeah.
get results.
Oh,
They've done
totally,
that
man.
many times.
Totally. I mean, it makes for great content, but
It does.
does it make for great campaigns? Great results? I don't know. Maybe sometimes, but not usually.
True, true. I used to run Outbound in a very segmented way back in the day, where I would have lists with like anywhere from 500 to 2,500 people in the list. I'll get like 20% reply rates sometimes. And it was great. It was awesome. It's like, wow, look at these results. But then, well, what do we do now? How do we scale this? There's nothing to be done
Right.
past this point. And then I'll hit a wall.
Right.
And then it's like, well, what are we doing again? Back to the main principles, the fundamentals, which is good list that has a pain point, great copy, great infra, and running at scale. Volume at a point.
Yeah, that's right. It's the boring fundamentals, man. It's unsexy stuff, but you got to nail them. Nail them, you're going to be all right.
It is. It is. Now, I'm sometimes shocked by how little do people think about the fundamentals and what they actually think the fundamentals are. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the like fundamentals that you have in place and some of like the trends that you're seeing when it comes to deliverability specifically now? And again, I don't think there is like basic enough in this space, because the basic stuff is what actually gets results sometimes. And then there's of course advanced stuff. But what are some of the things that you've seen that are like, most people say it's X, but you tested Y and you're seeing better results with that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so as far as I guess maybe first part to the fundamentals, I think we kind of covered them, right? It's infra and deliverability first, right? Then it's good copy, hopefully great offer, so on and so forth. But yeah, in terms of like what everyone says you should do, I'll give you a good example. This is a beautiful one. A lot of people say you send subdomains, right? You can't do it. It'll roll up and burn the primary. Totally untrue. We're crushing with subdomains. We're not gonna, we're spending so much less money on domains. It's not even funny. What we've actually found, the inverse is true. It's almost like a cheat code. These subdomains are going to inherit the positive juice from the primary. So we'll buy domains that are 20 years old, right? We'll warm them up. We won't warm up just the root domain, right? And then the subdomains are isolated instances. Subdomain A can have a totally different position or offer. If it gets affected, subdomain B, at least what we've been seeing for 6+ months, totally unaffected. Will that change? Who knows, right? But hey, I'd like to pay as little as possible with my domains. Clients will too, but that's a classic example. I think if you took a straw poll in this space, 90+% at least are going to say, "What are you doing? Subdomains? That's insane."
Yep.
Totally not, right? But it's one of those things where Everyone said you have to do it this way, and I thought, all right, let's just see. Yep, you can do it.
You can do it. And I'll admit, you told me that, I tested, and I'm getting great results subdomains too. It works. I can totally feel
Works.
for it. And I've seen no one
Yeah.
else do it before you. You were the first person who was like, "Hey, I'm testing subdomains." I'm like, I don't have an opinion. I haven't tested. And you went in, you tested. You're like, "Hey, it's working so far." And I remember the first days I was kind of skeptical. I was like, "Okay, maybe in a week or two it's gonna go down," and you just never did. It just kept on rocking on. Now I do know there's like there's some extra sauce there on like how to make it work, but that's like also what you
Yep.
get with working with AutoUp. We're not gonna touch on it, but yeah, there's some secrets on how to make it work, but it's definitely working. I
Right.
can definitely show for it. And
Yeah. There, I was gonna say there's some easy mistakes to make. If you
yeah,
make them, most people would. That you're gonna have problems. So, yep, yep,
yeah.
true.
What else have you been seeing? What else? Like, what are some other trends that you're noticing? I know there's one huge one on Spintax that I'd love for you to speak on. You were the first person that did it that way in recent days that I've seen getting great success at the volume that you're sending.
Well, just trying to use Spintax and sometimes not using it, and sometimes using it heavily. Not finding that much difference yet. I don't think though that it's to the point where I would take the position publicly like, hey, you shouldn't use Spintax. I think you probably still should.
And
It
things
makes
change
sense
too,
that
so it
it's
might be different soon. But yeah,
could be different soon. I still think it will make sense to use Spintax. I see no downside to using it. I'll put it that way. But we just ran some stuff that like we just okay, let's not use Spintax. Let's put it at real scale so we can have a viable test bed. And we're seeing sending accounts that are holding up as well as the ones that are using Spintax. I don't know. I don't know if that's so. Yeah, a lot of the stuff like I have great humility because I don't know anything really. Like, and it changes all the time. Um, but so it's a weird one, that didn't make
yeah.
a lot of sense. I thought, "Okay, those are gonna fall apart," and they haven't.
Yeah, yep. And one point I wanted to make by asking you that question too is that at least myself, when I was running a lot of volume, we had a client who was sending 36,000 emails a day for, and it was a fun client to work with. But what we would see a lot is that we needed a lot of different spin tags, a lot of different copy. We needed to vary the copy every so often to get results, else the results would go down. And in recent days, and you pointed this out, and I noticed it too, is like it mattered less and less. It mattered a lot back in the day. I could definitely show results for it, but
Yeah.
more recently, it's not been mattering as much. And you can get by with less variation and just having strong copy and just getting
Well
good engagement.
well, it's gotta be engagement, I think, right? Because
Engagement.
what I've heard this, though. I've heard this, like, you probably have too, like, last 7 months, I heard it a lot. Copy fatigue. That was a whole, like,
Yeah.
sort of made up buzzword. I don't know. I mean, but we've had people where, like, we're sending the exact same damn copy over and like, for years.
Yeah.
So when I hear copy fatigue, to me, that means that the ESPs have said, "Okay, we're fingerprinting that copy, that no longer plays." So how is it that we've sent so many hundreds of thousands of emails just for a handful of these clients, same copy, don't have an issue? My hypothesis, I'm gonna guess and not just make a proclaim something,
Yeah.
which many others do, but I think it's just probably lack of spam complaints, lack of abuse complaints. Again, I don't know, but, I can tell you that the whole thing about copy fatigue just from our data, I just think that's a narrative. I don't buy it at all.
Yeah. I think it's twofold in your case too, because your emails are not spammy. They don't read spammy. They don't read like something you'd want to push to the spam folder. So that might be helping too. And
Yeah.
then it ties back into engagement to an extent.
Yeah. It's man, it's hard to know. I do know though, what we can say is like, there's no way that the ESP said, "Hey, we see this copy, now it's here," just because of the copy. I just think it's due to like user signals like spam, abuse, whatever.
Right. Right. And that will tie into something interesting as well, which is all of the copy variations that are being said to land on Microsoft nowadays. Just send like short emails and you're landing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, man, I'll tell you what. We've talked about this before, so you know where I stand, but I will tell everybody that um I believe this, right? If anybody was really getting into Outlook at scale, truly, right? Like really getting in, I think what you'd see from that company, that person, whoever, they're going to be making videos showing the proof on LinkedIn, wherever, and I do it every day. I would take I would take a video and I would say, okay, here's the ESPs. You can see their Microsoft. You can see the reply rate. You can see how many we've sent. So it was a meaningful test. And they would be putting out that video every day. And they would say, this is your daily reminder that we can get into Microsoft. That we're the only ones who can do it. But I haven't seen those videos, man. So what does that tell us?
Nowhere to be found. And to extrapolate it
why-
further, when they do show the videos, it's nothing that you can actually trust. It's like it's a screenshot out of Airtable. It's something that's just hoping that you believe it, but nothing actually
That's right.
inside a sequencer. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. You show the sequencer, or even like, having, I don't know. We've got a pretty interesting client that they're in the top 130 of the Inc. 5000. We send so many emails to them. This guy's super smart. For example, having him validate it and say with a testimonial or somebody like that, I think that would suffice too. But yeah, I mean, we're just not seeing that. If people were doing it, they'd be so loud about it. They'd be constantly talking about it, and they're not doing it. And I just think that lends to its own conclusion, right?
It does. It does. But on that note, you've been seeing some interesting stuff with Microsoft too, which of course
Yeah.
there's a lot of like secret sauce that we're not gonna be sharing here on YouTube. But do you want to comment a little bit maybe on what you're seeing, like where things are trending with your tasks?
Yeah. So we've tried to test getting into Microsoft doing everything. And I mean, it seems anyway, everything, right? Like I'm talking like, okay, longer copy, deliberately putting links into the copy, putting a full signature, opt out, disclaimer, full can spam rules, including an unsubscribe link, thinking maybe, okay, maybe Microsoft's going to read this. This is in their view, a compliance email, and then route it to the primary. Doesn't work. A short copy. Hey, you want to go get lunch? Doesn't work. Right. Nothing works. It just seems like Microsoft's made the decision that like, if there's no sending history between your account and Outlook account X, they're just getting routed from the primary to junk, spam, others, whatever. And so, we had to rethink this even more. And the other thing too we tried was like domains that are 20 plus years old, warmed up for 2-3 months with no sending. I mean, everything, because this is such a significant problem. You have to be just like radical in approaching it, right? And so anyway, yeah, what we can't share is we've imagined and executed a totally different way to send. And so far, results are looking really good. So what I've been doing is having people, you've been one of them, but like people on calls where it's like, hey, you got an Outlook box? Let's try something, right? Let's try something, do it in real time. And I think we're like 112 out of 115. Damn near everyone has gotten into the primary, just slaughtering the primary. It's insane. Now that's not a meaningful sample size, but it is a course correction, or it's just like a divergence, I guess, from what we had been trying, which is we try these things, these tests with all the other stuff I mentioned in real time. Let's see your Outlook box. Let's share this, and it didn't get in. It never got in. It was like the opposite. We're getting in less than 10% of the time, less than 5% of the time with all those ways. And now we're almost never not getting in. So there's something at play here. It's very tricky. It's very complex. To execute scale is going to be even more difficult, but we think we got a way to do it and viably test it. So I think the next couple weeks it's going to be interesting. And if it works, I'm going to be that guy in LinkedIn or wherever. Hey, here it is. Here's the proof, and we'll prove it. We'll do videos and we'll show it. And if you don't hear from me, by the way, by like, make it April 2nd. We wouldn't release this on April 1, obviously, but then it probably doesn't work, and that's okay. We're just, we'll at least be straight about it. Because I just think with a big tech monopoly like Microsoft has made that decision, you're just probably not getting in, at least using the sending methods that everyone else is using. So
True. And I know it wasn't a huge sample size, but I can attest that I have a 14-year-old Microsoft account that they landed in every single time we tested. Not a single time it went to spam. Again, it's one account. It was a lot of different copy that we tested to see if it would keep on landing, and it kept on landing, and it was certainly interesting, and I haven't seen it happening with other infra, so I'm super curious to see what the results going to be like at scale.
Me too, man. Because, and I remember some of those tests were like, we put some really spammy really spammy stuff in there. There was like bullshit. Some of these are like really long too. I'm like, wow, that got in. And I think you had it. I think we had 2 different Outlook accounts for you and some of my whatever. Um, so it'll be interesting because I think that's the real way to look at this. It's actual mailboxes you can look. I can make any inbox placement test go green. Those things don't matter for this
They don't
sort of
matter at
stuff,
all.
right? It doesn't matter. It's real in the wild, like live email accounts. So we'll see, man. I'm super pumped about it. Obviously, if we can crack the code, it'll be the biggest thing that could happen to cold
It's
email.
gonna disrupt the
Um,
space because no one is finding it.
maybe. Well, right, but I mean, maybe because I don't know. I'm not going to be very keen to share either. Yeah.
That
So
is true. It's gonna disrupt the space for AutoUp clients, let's put it that way,
right,
and
that's true,
partners.
man. This is true.
Yeah, I'm super keen to see the results. It's gonna be so interesting, man. So interesting. Um,
I know. Fingers crossed.
man, Microsoft's been such a beast for so long, and
It's been a
it's
year now,
literally just
almost.
like
I think.
almost a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, we got clients where like, they got thankfully millions into their TAM where it's like, Microsoft's just off the board. Don't even mess them. Why would we?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
point.
No point. Other
What
guys
is
are doing it
interesting is
too.
we do land in ESGs, email security gateways, like Mimecast, Barracuda, Spamproof. I see you often in there, and you get replies. There are not so many of those, but yeah, I've seen you get results with them too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We need to look more about like the totality of those, I think, to really see is it worth it? Because I think you've talked about this before. Like if you send to enough SCGs, can that sort of,
Yeah,
make the whole motion bad at a certain point? I don't know. So they still scare me, right? Like we use those in targeted ways for certain clients only. Um, I don't know. When we can, I like to avoid those too.
yeah, no, bat. And I had a question for you. With the amount of volume that you're sending, how do you manage your infra? How do you keep track and tab on everything that you have going on? Because like I've seen some of the backends that there are like hundreds of panels. There,
Yeah.
yeah, I would not say like the amount of accounts that I saw in there, but it was a huge amount. And how do you keep track of all of it?
Custom software, man. That's the way to do it, right? So I don't know. Do you want to see it?
That'd be awesome. I'd love to.
Right on. Cool. Let me share my screen here. Running the API through instantly, we'll know who has disconnected accounts, which are critical. So actually, the team needs to really get on these and get them back up. Compared to how many sending accounts we have per client, this is still a really small percentage. But we're looking at all kinds of things. If email accounts are disconnected, if they have warm up issues, we don't have any of that currently. DNS issues. We're going to tether in each instantly API key from the workspace to talk to our OS. But I think you mentioned too, just knowing like panels where they're at. So like, this is a great example. So we can see here, we can sort and filter based on what type of panel. So DNS panel, we have many Cloudflare accounts. For example, we have many Google panels, many Microsoft panels. Sometimes we have client registrar panels, different registrar panels. All this stuff lives together and has linked records, right? And so we know if an account is down, then that's tethered to registrar X and panel Y and client Z. And so it's just coherent. It makes sense. It's easy to find for the team. And then the other thing we have here too, which is cool, we go into domains because I mentioned we get a lot of age domains. So we can put filters on these things, right? About, the status, if they are not being used currently by a client. And then we can just deploy those, request infrastructure, right? We have them. I don't know. It's very neat, but basically you pick who you want, you go through, you can request new domains, you can use existing infra. All this kicks to the team in just a very, very simple way. So what can't be automated, which isn't that much anymore, gets addressed. Team knocks it out. They check it off. Oh, this is timestamped too, so we can track activity, speed to complete tasks, all that sort of fun stuff. So we can look at KPIs. And I don't love the phrase KPI, but I guess it is what it is. And so, but I need to know who's doing what, and not snoozing on the job. But that hopefully that gives you a peek behind the curtain. It's very cool.
That does. It's gorgeous. Huge step up from the previous engine that you had going. And
Yeah.
custom software is a way for something that's as complex as that's called email infra. It is always a way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Have to do it. I mean, at scale, have to do it. I just don't think it's not viable without, actually.
Yeah, 100%. Not at that scale. Not the amount of accounts that you're managing.
Nope.
What happened? Again, it's been a lot of fun. You down for some rapid fire questions before we close off the pod?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, these are the classics, and I know like for someone who's doing like the volume that you're doing is as advanced as you are, they're gonna be like a piece of cake. But I'm super curious to hear, nonetheless, what are some of the best subject lines that you played around with?
I don't know. The shorter, the better. Like, I don't even really care about subject lines, right? Like, we're I don't know. I really, they got to be short. If you're hitting a company, like that's smaller, sometimes just company name, the subject line's a good one. We're actually testing and getting away from using the person's first name though in the subject lines. We found that, and a lot of people found that that's just like, hey, this is a cold email. You don't really write that way. People don't for the most part when they're just emailing somebody. So trying to get the scent off the dogs is something that we see working pretty well there. Um, yeah, man. I tell people if your deliverability is there, if it's reasonably relevant, and you just don't try to be too long winded or sell in the subject line, you're probably fine. You're probably gonna
I
get
like that.
found.
Well, it's differentiating yourself because everyone is sending first name in their
Yeah,
subject lines. It's just I look at my inbox and it's or even spam folder, even more than inbox, and it's full of my names, like Felipe
oh
everywhere,
boy,
top to bottom.
oh
It's
boy.
all there.
Right, right. And if someone was like manually writing to you, or to me, they're not mentioning my name. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh,
we had a client call that out. Guy's really smart, and he's like, who the hell does this? And he's like, no one does this except the cold emailers. And I'm like, man, that's a great point. Let's
yeah.
test, let's change. And so we've been getting away from it. Not always, right? But I don't know. Just again, thinking about everyone's doing this thing. I want to do the opposite.
I like that. I like that. On that note, what would be the best CTAs now?
Lighter's better, man. If you can, right? Some people know that like you'll get the trade-off of, okay, we don't, we're not going to get the same engagement, won't get as many raised hands, but they just don't care. They just want the calls, and okay, you have to work with that. That's fine. But again, just zooming out of like, what would I reply to? Right? What is, I'm busy, something is with as little amount of friction as possible is great. Um, yeah, light is great.
Their game. Their game. Another good answer. And how about email length? You think it matters? How long is your copy versus how short is a copy?
I mean, I agree that typically shorter is better, almost always. Um, yeah, almost always. I will say this though, we had a client that was like really interesting. This was years ago. This guy is super smart. He was a vice president of mindfulness. I didn't know they had a thing, but of course they do. It's LinkedIn. So he led 1,000 people at LinkedIn. And he does these like in-person culture building workshops, like big enterprises, Fortune 500, Fortune 100, et cetera. And so he was like, with him, we broke all the rules, right? We wrote a 282 word missive. It was just it was so long. It was crazy. But like what we did is, he was just like a total empath, right? And so he was talking to people who cared about like servant leadership and conscious capitalism and those sorts of things. So we scraped LinkedIn groups where people were in those groups, executives that fit the ICP at big companies. And we called the fact that they were in that group out in the email and said, hey, your inclusion in this group tells me this, and I appreciate what the work you're doing, all this stuff. It's all the stuff that like, you hear guys in our space would say, never ever do this, right? Right.
Yeah.
And mostly that would be true. But in this particular case, that guy just knew who he was talking to and nailed it, right? We got meetings with like Dell and Bloomberg and Databricks and just crushed. So, but again, that's the exception, man. I think that, yeah, shorter's better because I do think that people, like at the end of the day, you got what? A human has 3 seconds, 4 sec maybe, like to like read, understand, and then care about an email. So if you can make it short and sweet, you probably should.
Probably should. Yeah. Now, to the exception, I actually have an example too. I think there's an extra piece to this, which is differentiation. So, for example, we didn't like working with e-commerce bros back in the day much because, well, the whole e-commerce industry was so they were getting cold emailed so much. It was obnoxious to a point like you just couldn't they couldn't they were moving away from their email accounts. They just couldn't use it. It was unusable. But the one thing that we
Right.
tested back then that worked really well was super long copy. So this guy sent this behemoth an email with like all of the proof that they generate results for big brands, and it was just the entire copy is just proof, 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 and it was so outlandish and so different that it converted better than any other variation that we tried. So sometimes, yeah, longer
Yeah.
does help.
Well, you said something interesting there too, which I think was the proof, right?
The proof, yeah,
You could blast big logos, social proof. That changes the calculus, right? Whether it's short, long, whatever, but like then people trust you, like, okay, all right. Wait, you've done this for Amazon? For Visa? Okay.
right?
All right. You got my attention. Maybe. Maybe not. But like they have more of a chance now than they did before. That's for damn sure.
100%. It's the believability part, giving people reasons to trust you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because most don't have that proof. So that there in itself, huge pattern interruption, right? Um yeah. So yeah, that's the other thing too. From a copy perspective, if somebody's got, those like big ticket logos, you gotta be blasting those things out there.
Oh, you do. 100%. 100%. Which actually I think ties back into what you gotta do, man. You work with some huge logos. And
Yeah.
you said in the beginning you started getting louder about it, and I think you should because you've been getting great results for great companies. And I've met some of these founders that you work with too, and they're incredible. They're smart. They run fantastic offers, fantastic firms. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think people gotta know about it. They could do
Uh,
wonders.
appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll probably start posting, but I don't know. It's always weird. Um, I don't know. I'll probably start posting more. I really want to be able to figure out Outlook, like sincerely figure it out in ways that like not just, hey, this is how you do it, and like a teasing, well, we know, and that's all bullshit. I want to really figure it out. Um,
Huge.
so we'll see, man. We'll keep driving. I will say I tell you this, like the R&D department at the company's is pretty good. We're doing all kinds of just crazy stuff.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And leading to our last question, that's also tied to the development and innovation you guys are up to. What's your go-to lead gen stack? Like, how do you usually structure scraping? Like across the board, like in general. I know like every client's different, but like in general, what's your go-to?
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, instantly is going to be this, the sending engine, obviously.
Yep.
We certainly use Clay a whole lot, but I'm just finding like, man, the more that we can move Opus 4.6, getting Claude in there,
Mhm.
right? We're going to. But I mean, the stack's pretty big. We've got, I don't know, Apify's in there. I like Lead Magic a lot. It's an email finder. Prospeo is new and improved and great. ICP's terrific. Boy, I mean, I'd have to look at the bills that come through because they're pretty they're pretty fast and furious, and they're relentless. But we've got all kinds of things. But I think that yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of the stuff N8N's been great, but just really stitching together and building an AI. Like the internal tools. There's a Quad and Replit connection. I love Replit to do a lot of this building. I think Replit, that agent got so much better. Um, it's just crazy. It's so good.
And they now even do video. Like it's just getting better and better and better.
I know.
Such a great
I
tool.
know. It's incredible. So, but yeah, I mean, like I don't know, we keep comms on Slack. I don't know. I try to get away from all the Microsoft stuff as much as I can, but they have good info at least. So use that there. And we've actually pared it down. So really only from an infra perspective, pretty much Big G and Microsoft.
Yep. Nice and tidy. I like that.
Nice and tidy.
Super
Yeah.
interesting. Ken, this was a lot of fun, to say the least. This was interesting. We had a lot of very good insights from it. I appreciate you hopping on the pod. We should probably do another one at some point with some updates on Microsoft too, if it's working, especially even more than
It's working.
and do it often. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So thanks again for hopping on, man. This was a pleasure.
Always. Yeah. Great talking to you, man. We'll definitely do it again.